Over the past 2 days, we've introduced you to the reality of video game addiction.
And people are paying thousands of dollars to get their kids to drop the controller. But we know not every family can afford to do this. We continue to investigate this issue. Our Mayor Kawash live in studio with what your family can do to ease the addiction.
So how do you know if your kid is addicted to video games? The signs are pretty clear, actually. They're likely out of shape physically, and they may be struggling with their mental health. They may even start avoiding social contact with others to play video games, or they'll struggle to handle other priorities like schoolwork and chores. With that said, here's how you can get a handle on it at home without spending thousands of dollars. All types of addiction need some sort of treatment. It's hard for a family to handle that treatment on their own. There is a need for some kind of outpatient services or professional therapy. But that doesn't mean you can't take some steps forward right at home.
Parents understand not to hand drugs and alcohol to their kids, but they don't understand that video games, for instance, can be very addictive.
I know you're thinking drugs and alcohol just can't compare to something like a video game. And that's true to an extent, but you have to understand what it is that video games are doing to your kids.
I think it's really helpful to understand that all addictions have certain things in common. It involves activation of the pleasure pathways in the brain, be it through ingested chemicals or through very pleasurable activity.
It's a pleasure. Your kids are getting some kind of satisfaction out of this. So if they play video games for hours on end, several days a week, then they'll start looking for that type of satisfaction in everything else they do.
In order to achieve the desired effect, you're going to have to do more, do something that gives you even more of a release of dopamine, opiates, and the other neurochemicals that are involved in the process.
So that desire for more pleasure won't just go away on its own. You have to take it away from them.
Once you stop the addictive behavior, you can begin looking at what's really underneath there and driving all of this.
Cash says it's best to take baby steps. If you think your child is addicted, then consider taking their games away from them for 2 weeks or a month. It won't be easy at first. You have to expect that backlash from your kids.
What parents need to do is tolerate their kids' anger, because if a kid is addicted to something and you take it away, of course the child is going to be very upset while the child is going through withdrawal.
But over time, that anger will pass, and in the end, they might just thank you for it.
Once that period of withdrawal is finished and things settle down again, time and again we hear of kids that are grateful to their parents for having set those limits that are needed.
So it's important to note that, it's important not just hand over those video games to your kids, especially when they're so young. Ease them into it and make sure it doesn't consume other priorities in their life. On the other hand, video games aren't the worst thing in the world. Everyone does play them, just keep it a hobby, not an addiction. Live in studio, Mayor Kawash, 4 News Now.